Winter rejoice and again. Winter rejoice and again. Today will be a joyful day. Winter rejoice and again.
We're the Barron kids, and we're going to be lighting the chalice for this week.
We light this flame as a symbol of new life, enlightening our way, as a symbol of the warmth in every human heart. Let the light of this flame rekindle the inner light of hope, of peace, of love. May we share that light with all people.
Good morning. I am Marie Luna, the Director of Congregational Life. Thank you for welcoming us into your home today. It is good to be together, even when we have to be physically apart. If you are joining us from another Unitarian Universalist congregation, we welcome you. This morning, we want to extend a special welcome to the members and friends of the Lakeshore UU Fellowship in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. Thank you for joining us, Lakeshore. If this is your first time visiting the fellowship, we are so glad you are here. I encourage you to reach out to find out more about our fellowship. I am happy to help you get connected here. I will put my email address in the chat box. Please reach out. Today's service is being led and supported by Reverend Christina Leone-Tracy, our senior minister, Reverend Leah Angiri, our associate minister, Allie Peters, our intern minister, Cindy Darling, our lay worship leader, Kim Hartman, our director of religious education, Steve Seek, our music director, our wonderful musicians and singers, and Adam Robinson, our AV tech, supporting our technology from his home. Thank you to everyone who makes this service possible. This year, we are focusing on growing resilience. We are digging in to what it means to grow ourselves and our communities to be sources of life, even when things get tough. Right now, we are in the weeks of our Planting Roots theme. Thank you for joining us as we go deeper, finding nourishment together for the days ahead. Just as a note of content warning, a little later in our service, our worship leader, Cindy, will be sharing about her own experience with mental illness. Nothing graphic, just letting you know in case that is a trigger for you. I invite you now to settle into your space, wherever you are, setting aside your week in whatever way you are able, so that we can be together fully, even from afar. Let's sing together as we see the ways our friends at the fellowship are planting roots.
May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be one. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be one. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be
Good morning. Each of us, no matter our age or our stage in life, is on a journey. Our 7 Unitarian Universalist principles call us to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And so we take time each week when we gather to hear stories and to explore ideas in new ways. Today, we've got a story called The Empty Pot, and it's a story based on an ancient Chinese folktale. Long, long ago, the emperor of an ancient land was old, and he was dying. He loved children, but he didn't have any children of his own, so he decided to choose one of the children of his land to be the next emperor. The emperor also happened to love plants, and he had a lot of them. So nobody was really surprised by the test that he offered to the children of the land. He gathered them all to the palace and he said, I'm going to give each one of you a seed. Come back in a year, and when I see what you have grown from your seed, I'm going to choose my next emperor. Well, the children ran smiling from the palace. All they had to do was grow a seed and they were going to be an emperor. But a year is a long time, and some of the children actually forgot to plant their seeds. But there was one boy, a boy named Chen, who took care of his seed right away. Just like the emperor himself, Chen loved plants. So he carefully carried his seed home, and as soon as he got home, he found a clay pot made by hand by his grandfather. And he thought that this was going to be the perfect pot for him to grow his seed. So he washed it carefully, he dried it, and next he found some really rich soil that had a lot of worms in it, so it would be very nourishing. And he filled the pot with soil, and then he planted his seed. And he carefully covered it with just a little bit more soil. And then Chen put his pot in the sun, and he watered it every day, but nothing grew. Nothing at all. Some weeks went by, and some of the other kids started bragging about how great their plants were looking. And then Chen was concerned, so he tried other things. He tried moving his pot to another window. He tried watering it more. He even tried singing songs to his seed. But it still didn't grow. And then a year was up, and it was time to return to the emperor. And Chen was ashamed that his seed had not grown. But his wise grandfather said, Chen, you did your best. You were caring and you were patient. So just be honest with the emperor and explain that you did your best. It will be enough. So Chen returned to the palace with his empty pot held carefully in his arms. And the children lined up to present their plants. And this is what a lot of them looked like. They were really big plants. They had a lot of leaves, and they were really heavy. By the time it was Chen's turn, he was so sad about his empty pot. Feeling really embarrassed, he held his pot up for the emperor to see, and he explained how he had lovingly cared for the seed. He talked about his love for his grandfather who had made the pot. He told the emperor everything that he had done to care for the seed and how sad he felt that the seed would not grow. And that's when the emperor smiled, and he said, there is only one among you that is honest enough to be the emperor. The seeds that I gave to each of you had been boiled so they would never grow. All these wonderful plants that you brought in to show me today did not come from the seeds that I gave you. So now some of the other children looked ashamed because they knew that they had not been honest. And the emperor knew it. Only one child cared for the seed even when it did not grow. Only Chen gave the seed all it needed, and he asked for nothing. Only Chen was honest enough to show me an empty pot. Chen will be the new emperor. And so Chen moved into the emperor's palace with his grandfather. And the old emperor taught him many things about gardening and much, much more. And when the emperor died, he was smiling because he knew that Chen would care for his land with love and with honesty. As we hear the rest of this morning's service, and as we go about our lives this week, let's remember that part of being resilient is to honor your truth, to know what your values are, and to stay rooted in them. Knowing this when times are hard will help you to stay focused on walking your path, like Chen, with deep care and with loving honesty.
God bless you, dear friends. I greet you with this traditional Unitarian Transylvanian greeting. My name is Koppandi Zoltán, and I have been a Unitarian minister in the past 19 years in the diaspora of Hunyad County, Romania. I minister the congregation from Deva. We had a partnership with you since 1999. These past few days, months, many of us ask ourselves, why? Why is this virus? Why is it spreading in this way? Why is it affecting the whole world? Why is there no cure for it? Why so many had to die? The 42nd question and answer of our Unitarian Catechism says, what it means that God is good. The answer is, it means that He does only good, not only with those who are good and deserve it, but with those who don't too. He takes care of every single being. The providence is the continuing of the creation. The creation which is not a closed process, but it is a continuous work, and we have to be, actually we are His co-workers. He had not forgotten about the world. He had not let us by ourselves. He is taking care of us with unconditional love. So, as a Unitarian, I believe that the source of suffering is not God, but the involving forever changing and growing life, the existence. One of our mission as human beings is to fight against suffering. Can God be blamed because one day someone ate a bat and this led to a worldwide epidemic? Where is God in all of this? My answer is simple. With you. He's standing by your side and helping you to build your resilience in these hard times. Our mouth was covered and our words were silenced, but we learned a lot by opening our eyes and hearts. And we saw that the suffering made us more compassionate. We saw more, we felt more. We barely saw each other, but when we did it, we appreciated the closeness more. And we definitely get stronger. We grew in faith, and we do believe that we will conquer. Today, here in Transylvania, as Unitarians, we are celebrating the Thanksgiving. Today, we are thankful for your existence. Today, we are thankful for our partnership. God bless you.
What a joy to see our partner church minister, Zoli, from halfway around the world. It's powerful to hear from our partners who share so many things with us in faith, but also are very different from us in many ways. It's these human connections that provide me with strength and resilience. Thank you for your words, Zoli. Our next reading is from the American Unitarian Universalist minister, Reverend Molly Hausch Gordon, entitled Tools for Navigating Uncertainty. In her reading, she ends with these words and then proceeds to offer the tools. Quote, I promised you some actual tools for navigating uncertainty. Here are a few that I have been using, framed helpfully as commands, because maybe it feels good to be bossed around when you're feeling overwhelmed. But really, they are simply reminders of what our body knows, of what the ancestors of our faith traditions have taught, of what we have been practicing together for years.
Number 1, quadruple down on your spiritual practices, the things that keep you tethered to the earth, even as it shifts, the things that keep you living the life you are living in this moment, not some other life or moment, the things that allow your spirit to settle from the flurry and sink back into your body. These practices need not be a lofty hour of meditation, as long as you are present to them. A walk with the dog will do, or a moment with a poem, nursing the baby, making a meal. Just do the thing with your whole self and the intention to practice. And it is a spiritual practice.
Number 2, put some pleasurable thing on your calendar that will be reliable no matter what is unfolding around you. Make a date and keep it. On Friday, I am going to make chocolate mousse. On Tuesday, I am going to call my best friend. On September 23rd, a new movie about Sherlock Holmes' younger sister drops on Netflix, and I will watch it with hot, milky tea and scones in hand.
Number 3, find something to give thanks for every day. not as a tool of spiritual bypass, demanding that you somehow reframe or breeze by your suffering, but as a reminder that the world is beautiful and terrible, and we can't forget about the beauty if we are to survive the terror. Here's a quick tool for recognizing and avoiding spiritual bypass. If you find yourself following your suffering with "but," at least I should be glad for, stop and try again. There is no but, or at least, or should about your suffering. It is a truth in and of itself. True gratitude in hard times looks something like a deep "and." I am in terrible pain, and I am being held tenderly. This loss is shattering, and my community is showing up for me. That "and" is the best theology there is in the face of suffering.
Number 4, when you are surrounded by way too many questions and options, drill down to the next smallest bit. Small is all. Just do the next right thing, and then the next, and then the next. And suddenly, you're somewhere different than where you started, and new options open before you.
Number 5, and when you feel totally robbed of options, be so intentional about the decisions that you are able to make. Here are 2 revelatory and deceptively simple questions to ask yourself, depending on the situation. What do I prefer, and what does love look like right now?
Number 6, turn off the news, y'all, or log off the doom scrolling. You cannot information your way through this. And most of our sources are intentionally calibrated to keep our bodies on high alert, so we always want more. Opt out. Curate your social media feed to be mostly funny cat pictures and babies. And for God's sake, turn off the cable news. Switch to the classical station with the 5-minute news update on the hour. It's enough.
Number 7, rigorously pursue soothing and comfort for your body, which is constantly being activated into stress response right now. Start by noticing several times a day that you have a body. What's going on below the neck? Continue by asking yourself how you can be 5% more comfortable. Maybe you need a cushion. Maybe you need a heavy blanket. Maybe you need a walk. Maybe you need to drink some water. You probably need to drink some water.
And number 8, finally, for now, remember that you are not alone. Reach out to the people who can support you and rely on them. Reach out to your congregation if nothing else. Ask for what you need. Be reliable to your people in return. Stay soft, my dear ones, Reverend Hausch Gordon writes, and we will make it through this stumbling.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand.
Good morning, wonderful fellowship community. How are you? Not being able to be with you in person, my friends, my community, is taking a toll on me. As someone who is highly social and also bipolar, I have been suffering many ailments, not least of which have been severe anxiety and depression. One of my main coping skills used to be getting together with friends. I would organize gatherings of incredible humans. We would come together in my living room. We would play games, have deep discussions, share of ourselves, or talk about books. My community of support is like a weighted blanket for the soul. My friends are like lifelines to happier moments, to smiles that go all the way to my eyes. I have a lot in my life that is good. Most days, however, I admit I am simply miserable. I am sad for the nation. I am sad that I can't see my friends in person. I'm fed up with Zoom. I'm missing talking one-on-one with friends. I miss walking up to people at the fellowship and saying, I don't believe we've met. But I also get up every day. I work my real estate business. I create marketing pieces to engage my creative side. I get dressed. I feed my cats. I create art. I spend time at home with my partner, Todd. I go on showings and listing appointments. So much of my day feels normal, yet I'm often left feeling empty, wanting more, unsatisfied. I am often left feeling depressed and anxious, and my regular strategies don't seem to be working. So I'm working on not giving into my clinical depression and anxiety. Through frequent meetings online with my psychiatrist, medications have been tweaked, doubled, stopped, cut in half, abandoned for something new to try, or just abandoned. My trips to the pharmacy have become stolen moments of socialization. I know very well that should and at least and but have no place in self-talk. Lately, however, I have heard myself internally slip often. As my anxiety races, I start shoulding on myself. You should take a walk. You will feel better. Well, maybe I would, but not with that setup. Or my latest and loudest rendition of at least. At least I don't have COVID. I would never say at least to a grieving human. At least he led a long life. That is not empathy. I am fully aware of that. And I'm also aware that having knowledge doesn't mean one always applies it. So I know not to say it, but I still, at least, myself. In the reading we just heard, Reverend Gordon says, true gratitude in hard times looks like a deep and. I could not agree more. Yet, once again, I often work against myself. This is partly asking me to do the work of including myself once again in the all. I struggled for a long time with the idea of including myself when reading statements about humanity, such as our first principle, all humans have inherent worth and dignity. I worked on that principle concerning others for years. When I began to include myself in that all, my life, my internal critic, all changed drastically. Just as I struggled bringing myself into the all, I am working hard to find a way to connect myself to this much more positive and hopeful land of and. As a teacher, I knew well the power of and the devastating power of but. We were explicitly taught to use and. If a positive is followed by an area for improvement and the connecting conjunction is a but, that positive is forgotten, erased. So if I say, Johnny is well behaved in class, but he struggles to settle down to work, the first part, that compliment, is lost. It is like the parent or guardian never even heard it. When the but becomes an and, both parts are heard and retained. So again, this is work I applied to others for years. I need to start applying some deep and to myself. My resilience comes in fits and starts. There are moments of inspiration that seem to propel me forward with joy. There are those other moments that are far from joyful, that send me spinning and tunneling deep, deep into depression. I read a quote once that said, 1 step forward and 2 steps back is still 3 steps. I think I will try to think of it that way. I hope you'll join me in this practice of and, this practice of resilience.
Today marks the official beginning of our fellowship program year. After we've had a few weeks of slow rollout of various programs, we met our new intern minister a few weeks ago, and our RE program began with some new updates and changes last week. But today, it all comes together here with our new Sunday services format. I and all of your staff here at the fellowship have been like ducks, calm on the surface and frantically paddling below, trying to be ready for this new beginning. We're kicking off our program year theme, Growing Resilience, today. One of the things that I've been doing behind the scenes is receiving your photos and videos that you are sending in so that we can create the Filled with Loving Kindness montage and see different people offer testimonials or sing Enter Rejoice and log in. The other day, one of those videos came into my email box. It was one of our members, Tom Pennenberg, singing Enter Rejoice, and you'll see it next week. But I'm not going to lie, I burst into tears when I saw it. Just ugly crying, with a mixture of both deep joy to see his face and hear his voice, and deep sadness, because I miss Tom. I miss his enthusiastic singing of our welcoming song from his seat at the front of the sanctuary with the occasional yee-haw. I miss each of you so much. Some of you moved away, and I'm overjoyed to get to see you again here, but I wish I could give you a hug. And some of you are new to our fellowship since this pandemic began, and I long to meet you in person. The reality that we are not going to be physically in the same space for a lot longer than any of us realized or hoped is heartbreaking. I hope that you will take time to send in a photo or a video, please, so that you and we can all see and hear each other in these online services and feel just a little bit more connected to each other. The information about how to send in your photos and videos will be linked in the chat box. Because this is what resilience means. It means strength and toughness, the ability to make it through hard times, but not brittle hardness. Rather, resilience is about softness, flexibility, malleability. As people, nationally certainly, even worldwide, and we as a faith community, we are being tried right now. None of us signed up for this challenge, and yet here we are, finding our way through it, and some are doing so more gracefully than others. I count myself among those feeling pretty clumsy about my stumbling through this mess. And then I come back to all the ways that we are growing resilience. The message from our partner church minister, Zoli Kopandi, is an example. The fact that we are in this Zoom land means that we can make and find connections with people that we haven't seen in a while, who live halfway across the world. I also come back to the purpose of our faith community, because we're a lot of things. We do a lot of things. We provide friendship and social opportunities. We make music. We are a nonprofit organization with all the processes and rules that go along with that. We support justice efforts in our community. We bring meals and offer tangible and emotional support when people are in need. We educate our children about morals and values. But the purpose of our fellowship and our Unitarian Universalist faith is to meet us exactly where we are and how we are, whole, holy, good enough, just as we are, and then to help us grow, to transform, to connect and deepen to ourselves, to each other, to our values, so that we're able to withstand the challenges of the world and make the world better when we leave our time together each week. I don't know about you, but the last few months, the last few weeks, and the death of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg have just thrown me for a loop. We are, as the saying goes right now, in challenging times, and we need each other more than ever. So allow me to repeat myself so that you can really hear what we're doing here together. The purpose of our fellowship and our Unitarian Universalist faith is to meet us exactly where we are and how we are, whole, holy, good enough, just as we are, and then help us grow, transform, connect and deepen to ourselves, to each other, to our values, so that we are able to withstand the challenges of the world and make the world better when we leave our time together each week. Reverend Molly Hausch-Gordon, in the reading we heard earlier, says, "Now is the time to, quote, quadruple down on your spiritual practices." She explains spiritual practices like this. She says they are, quote, the things that keep you tethered to the earth even as it shifts. The things that keep you living the life you are living in this moment, not some other life or moment. The things that allow your spirit to settle from the flurry and sink back into your body. These practices, she writes, need not be a lofty hour of meditation as long as you're present to them. A walk with the dog will do, or a moment with a poem, nursing the baby, making a meal. Just do the thing with your whole self, and the intention to practice is a spiritual practice. End quote. Being a part of a community of people who are striving to withstand the challenges of the world and make the world better, that is, being a part of this fellowship, could be one of those spiritual practices. A few years ago, I did a sermon on emergencies. You might recall it had to be rescheduled because of the largest snowstorm on record in our area in mid-April. That was my first year here in Wisconsin. Thanks, Wisconsin. But that sermon was about spiritual practices. And we had our fire drill that day too. You never thought you would miss our fire drills, did you? Yep, here we are. It would be foolish to develop a fire escape plan when the building was on fire. It would likewise be foolish to expect to have peace and comfort without any grounding or practice in the midst of a time of crisis. And yet, I understand how easy it is to let those practices go. I completely get it. They can be one more thing on the to-do list. And when that list is too long anyway, these are the first things to go. Resist that urge. Follow through on any little thing it takes to ground yourself right now for the long haul work of living in the world in a pandemic, with climate crises, civil and political unrest, uprisings. We need our resilience. We need each other. You are needed more than you know to keep this fellowship vital for those who are here and those who are still yet to come. And the skills that we practice here at the fellowship are skills that are not explicitly taught in very many places or at all in our world. We don't often think about Sunday services as a laboratory, but I love that as a metaphor. This is where we practice in real time some of the ideas that we talk about a lot. It's where we wonder together and practice not knowing all the answers. There aren't many places where that is a skill to be prized, but it certainly contributes to a greater sense of grounding when all our certainty goes out the window in our daily lives. This is where we practice silence and breathing. That's definitely a good skill to have in our pockets these days. This is where we practice hearing or reading the joys and sorrows of people in our community, and we practice the vulnerability of sharing and the sacred act of witnessing without fixing the problem. I wish I had learned that skill when I was younger. It's a great skill to have with family and friends. This is where we practice generosity, challenging each other to try on new perspectives, to delve deeper into our own beliefs, and to approach moments of awe and transcendence. I love what the reading that we heard earlier says about the news. She says, turn it off or stop the doom scrolling in your social media feed. She says, quote, we can't information our way out of this. Boy, is that true. As Unitarian Universalists, we have historically, thanks to our Enlightenment heritage, we have wanted nothing more than to read or learn or do our way out of any challenge. And that is just not going to work right now. We need connections and depth and the skills that will allow us to grow in our resilience as we continue in this coming year. As we hear our next song, I would love if you would be willing to type into the chat box what it is that you think the purpose of our time together is on Sunday mornings. Why do you come? What do you hope for? I will make a word cloud out of these and share them in next week's scroll and on our Facebook group, and your thoughts might find their way into the worship leader's new mission statement to guide us in crafting services this year. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with me and with all of us. As Reverend Hausch Gordon said in the reading, remember that you are not alone. Reach out to the people who can support you and rely on them. Reach out to your congregation, if nothing else. Ask for what you need and be reliable to your people in return. Stay soft, my dear ones, and we will make it through this stumbling. Amen. And may it be so.
this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will. I know this rose. I know thy fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know thy fear. I know thy rose. I know thy fear. I know thy wings. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
Sharing our individual joys and concerns helps us collectively to grow resilience. We invite you now to type into the chat box any news you wish to share with our community so that we can hold space with you while we worship. If you would like to connect further with me or a member of our care team, please let me know directly. You may still submit joys and concerns on our website or by emailing me or any member of staff, and we will include those in our weekly email. Let us breathe into this shared silence and then join our voices together in our sung response.
And we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer.
Each week, we take time for generosity, remembering that the acts of giving and receiving are spiritual practices. As always, if you are in need of financial or emotional support, please reach out to myself or Reverend Christina or Reverend Leah so that we can offer help, including modest financial support through the minister's discretionary fund. For those of you who are feeling relatively more financially secure, we want to thank you for continuing to give, and we ask that you keep doing so. There are several ways that you can give to the fellowship and many reasons to do so. Here are just a few. One thing that I love about the fellowship is that there is a real energy around supporting one another, from the staff, from the congregation. And for me, as a minister in training during a global pandemic, that kind of eagerness to be there for one another, that kind of excitement to give support to somebody, that's been really life-giving for me and really recharging. That's huge. And I am so grateful to have the chance to be here. So thank you. And also thank you for your continued contributions to the fellowship so that it can go on being that place of support for this community. Thank you.
As we come to the end of our service, we will extinguish our chalice flame, even as we still hold its light in our hearts. As we extinguish this flame, let us go our ways with hope in our hearts, with our spirits renewed, and with a deeper understanding of life's mystery. Let us carry the light of compassion and commitment to build a better world. After our closing words, we will be having small breakout groups just like usual for 15 minutes of connection and conversation. In a moment, we will hear a short postlude song. If you do not want to participate in small group conversations, please use that postlude music time to log off and leave this Zoom meeting. If you choose to stay, I encourage you to learn each other's names and to pay attention to the timer in the corner of your screen so that everyone gets a chance to share. And with that, go in resilience, growing in strength. Go in rootedness, deepening your connections. Go in peace, knowing that we embrace each other, even now, from a distance.